This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Chapter 13, The Guiltless World. Section 4, The Function of Time. Paragraph 1. And now the reason why you are afraid of this course should be apparent. For this is a course on love, because it is about you. You have been told that your function in this world is healing, and your function in heaven is creating. The ego teaches that your function on earth is destruction, and you have no function at all in heaven. It would thus destroy you here and bury you here, leaving you no inheritance except the dust out of which it thinks you were made. As long as it is reasonably satisfied with you, as its reasoning goes, it offers you oblivion. When it becomes overtly savage, it offers you hell. And I just want to remind people that the prior podcast was about the fear of redemption. And so this first sentence where it says, and now the reason why you're afraid of this course should be apparent. For it is redemption that we are afraid of. For this is a course on love, which is about you. Again, the fact that the ego wants to keep us in our ideas.
My question is, does this ring true? Okay, does this ring true? I'm just going to ask to you. Does this ring true to you?
That my ego wants to have me in a place that I form a destruction.
Are you afraid of this course? And I understand the rest of it, but are you really? Let's check in. Are you afraid of this course?
Well, the thing of it is that I think I'm not afraid of it.
Exactly.
Except when I actually try to apply it as it says.
So the question is the course this book? No, the course is a relationship with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
That's the course.
Yes.
This isn't the course.
Well, that's a very good point.
Because I'm not afraid of this at all.
Right. You're not afraid of reading it and doing the lessons and stuff like that. But when you do the applications that it requests of you and actually apply what it's teaching you, fears definitely do come up. For it does feel as though the world in which I'm accustomed to is going to be taken apart, and it will, but not in a way that is not in a way that's not to my benefit. Although the ego will say absolutely not to its benefit, and it will definitely flare here and there.
If I do this course in miracles as another yoga, another program of in my quiver, my arsenal, one of my weapons for dealing with a meaningless life, so I'm going to go, throw pots down in a storefront pottery place. I'm going to do a little yoga, and I do my Course in Miracles. I do these things. I might even go to a book club or whatever I do to create meaning in my life. This is totally innocuous. This is just another program. But if I look at this, now the reason why you are afraid of this course, because that's what that whole prior section was about.
Yes.
Touching into that fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Touching into the resistance. So until I can touch, what is it even saying? Then I would say, again, there's this thing of this glazing over the top. Does it ring true? It would thus destroy you here and bury you here, leaving you no inheritance except the dust out of which it thinks you were made. Does that ring true? Do you think that you're going to be left just just trashed out.
No, but if I'm honest about life and death as we know it, and being in our later years now, the only thing that the body can go towards now is the dust of the earth. You know, if I'm honest about it, and I look around me and I see the people of my age group and older, the interesting thing is how much we cling to what the body is up to. All of the prayers of my Bible study class, in other words, is about
Everybody's
the body.
sick, and everybody wants that sickness to go away.
Right, and they want the healing of the body. The mind is not so much what they're concerned about.
The mind, the spirit, those things take care of themselves. The body's problematic. The body needs attention.
Right. So long as that focus is and perceptual reality is primarily on the body, we will be lost, and we will consider ourselves going to be buried, and that's it.
Well, before I even go on, this is absolutely with that thought. I almost got goosebumps when I read this, because I'm going to say it's referring to Darwinian evolution.
The whole thing about our inheritance is dust out of which you think we were made.
Out of which it thinks you were made. So this is Darwinism. So you'd say, well, who cares? That's a theory. No, it's a theory that's mandatory. It's unquestionable. It's the foundation of our natural sciences in a lot of ways, along with the Big Bang.
Right.
So we are told that we exuded out of oblivion. And to oblivion we will return if we're good.
Yeah.
Because if you're not good, it'll make your life hell.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Yes.
So anyway, just think about it. The culture that we're in, the circumstance, the thought stream that we're in, momentary thought stream, is based on all of our education, all of our positioning is that we crawled out of the dirt, the primordial slime, and that somehow intelligence is an epiphenomenon of that slime. It interacted with itself and got more. At first, it started to stink, right, and crawl around, and then eventually that evolved into thinking.
I know.
That's where we're coming from. I know that's simplistic, but
I know, and I believed it as I was taught it, and everything else.
So the point I want to say is, it's so important for the ego that it has to go back and explain its origins as utterly meaningless.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I never really thought it that way, but that's true. Now, the other one part before we move on is I just want to say that that you have been told that your function in this world is healing, and your function in heaven is creating. That distinction is paramount to understanding your function in the world versus a function in heaven, and that heaven is a possibility even in what we would call here, but it's transcendent of the world in which we perceptually occupy. So I just wanted to emphasize that because
because we think we can be creative here.
Yeah, we think that we can be wholly creative,
Not
but
possible.
the only thing that is creative, according to the Course, is
healing.
It's healing, and it's extension, which means something that is eternal.
Healing is extension.
Yeah, healing is
here in our dimension here.
Yes.
Paragraph 2. Yet neither oblivion nor hell is as unacceptable to you as heaven. Your definition of heaven is hell and oblivion, and the real heaven is the greatest threat you think you could experience. For hell and oblivion are ideas that you made up, and you are bent on demonstrating their reality to establish yours. If their reality is questioned, you believe that yours is, for you believe that attack is your reality, and that your destruction is the final proof that you were right.
Yeah. Oblivion is heaven. We had this discussion earlier and stuff like that, and I started to laugh about the how they show, the angels and harps on clouds in heaven in some of the movies and things like that. And the fact is that the picturing of what we create as heaven looks like a place where not a whole lot goes on. There's no creating, right? And so there's not an association of why I even want to be in heaven in a way, except the avoidance of hell. That would be my only reason that I want to be in heaven, is the avoidance of hell, because our perceptual ideas of heaven are really boring.
But as Alan Watts said, or as it said in the Inferno, the best aspect of heaven is a picture window into hell.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's crazy. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
From a distance. What good is heaven if you can't see people roast and you're not in there?
Oh, yeah. Let me go on. Under the circumstances, would it not be more desirable to have been wrong, even apart from the fact that you were wrong? While it could perhaps be argued that death suggests there was life, no one would claim that it proves there is life. Even the past life that death might indicate could only have been futile if it must come to this, and needs this to prove that it was at all. You question heaven, but you do not question this. Yet you could heal and be healed if you did question it. And even though you know not heaven, might it not be more desirable than death? You have been as selective in your questioning as in your perception. An open mind is more honest than this.
Okay, this is an indictment. This last couple of phrases
Yes.
is an indictment of our so-called questing. It's saying your quest is cherry picking. You go after the things that you think that you want, that you already know that you want, and you're not asking what needs to be asked. You're not going where you need to go.
Yeah, and it starts with questioning about whether or not I've been wrong. It starts up with the release of I might have been wrong, which would lead me to the next question, or at least leave an openness for the Holy Spirit to give me the right question and the answer, which they often, the Holy Spirit answers the question and the answer in one shot, boom. And so this gives a method also of how to work with the Holy Spirit, because you have to start with, hey, maybe I was wrong about heaven. Maybe it isn't oblivion.
Well, and it's pointing out that this whole thing is like, for some reason, the burning question is, does God exist? Mm-hmm. Does heaven exist? Mm-hmm. Why don't we ask the burning question of what the hell is this thing about? You know, that's what it's saying here. This world that we're in is that you have life emerging in a meat puppet of the human body.
Uh-huh.
And it kind of flops around for a while, does some stuff, cries a few tears, and then goes away to nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get a 35,000-foot view on this. Why?
Yeah, exactly.
What in the galaxy would want to do that?
Yeah, I don't know, except unless...
But we don't question the utter, the nihilism, the meaninglessness. Mm-hmm. Meaninglessness cannot create order.
Well,
it's not possible, but that's where we proceed. And now we try to understand how this apparently orderly life came out of meaninglessness, and that's called science.
Yeah, the chaos theory. Yeah. Let's see, was there something else? While it could perhaps be argued that death suggests there was life, no one would claim that it proves there is life. That is an interesting statement, because even the past life that death might indicate could only have been futile if it must come to this, and needs to this to prove that it was at all. So only death proves that there's life in our in perceptual logic. So that is
I know when somebody dies, we go, oh, what the hell? Something happened there.
Something bizarre.
Poor Mortimer. You remember when he walked around among us, and now look at him laying in there in that box. He used to be alive, and now poor Mortimer, he's all dead. Now we know he's alive. While Mortimer was here, nobody gave a crap about Mortimer.
It's kind of funny you chose Mortimer when there's
a
mortician. Okay.
Well, Morton is a root word of death.
I know. Anyway, no, that's true. And so this is just emphasizing that we're never in the present. We're always using a past-future reference to our lives. We don't have a present upon us. Okay, let's move on.
Don't get me started. Paragraph 4.
Okay.
The ego has a strange notion of time, and it is with this notion that your questioning might well begin. The ego invests heavily in the past, and in the end believes that the past is the only aspect of time that is meaningful. Remember that its emphasis on guilt enables it to ensure its continuity by making the future like the past, thus avoiding the present. By the notion of paying for the past in the future, the past becomes the determiner of the future, making them continuous without an intervening present. For the ego regards the present only as a brief transition to the future, in which it brings the past to the future by interpreting the present in past terms. Now, and we talked about this earlier. For effect, I told you earlier, to make an impact, I said, there is no present here. This idea of the power of now with Eckhart Tolle, there is no present here. Feel it. I'm going to make a point. I'm not.
Okay.
This isn't
and
hopeless.
I argued about using the word here.
No, I know.
Okay.
You didn't. I just want to point out that when we're talking about the present, it's a trans-dimensional place. If you look at time as it unfolds linearly with us, you can see
horizontally.
Well, as I said before, this cursor on Audacity is a continuous string of showing voice signals, and there's a cursor right in the middle. A future is a gray zone to the right of the cursor, and the past, which I can see and I can refer back to and re-listen to, is on the left. That's linear time. The so-called present is only an excuse to move from the past into the future. There's no way to, let's say, be present. It's too small. It moves too quick. However, if you understand the Course in Miracles and what it's about creating this idea of the present, it's not me freezing this few seconds with you and giving you a meaningful look and generating meaning and being with you now kind of a thing. What it's saying is understand that this time, this temporality that we're in, is simply an excuse for this eternity, for this timeless relationship. And all the words and all the sequencing of time is only an excuse to experience something that's fully formed, fully meaningful, always there. And that creates this spaciousness so that you can live in the present.
I'm not following for some reason.
If in the ego's world, I go through the present to establish myself as worthwhile. That's why I go through stuff. That's why I do push-ups, I exercise, I read books. I go through this stuff to be worthwhile, to make something of myself, to establish myself. I use time to become something.
Right.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
The Course is saying that has to be completely reversed, and that I'm already maximum value.
Yes.
Nothing I do here is going to improve what I am. Nothing I do here is going to improve anything. So this is just a simple emptiness of working out time which is meaningless. And the only reason it's here is to dwell within that maximum value that I was already. So the difference is I go to the store, I got to get food, I got to stick food in my face to keep the body going. Instead, I recognize all that's going to be done. All that's going to be done. And I'm mindful now of my walk to the store or whatever it is. I'm mindfully going through the aisles. I'm going through the sort of like predetermined actions of picking up soup or whatever it is I pick up at the store. And it's not to enhance my life. It's an emptiness. It becomes empty. It becomes kind of Zen.
Yeah, I understand that.
So it's now empty. In other words, I got a drawing to do. It's not like, thank God I got drawings because now I'm going to have money. And if with money I can do this. No, it's an empty working out of my lot here.
Right.
It's an empty because my value is already established.
Right, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it is. And it's always here. The thing of it is that my understanding is that heaven, it can be experienced here in the now. But as you said, it requires the help of the Holy Spirit for me relinquishing my ideas on things that I have to have those moments where maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I do not understand this.
Those moments can eject you into that meaningful world.
Yes, and it can happen where both are. Well, I suppose that my idea of myself is still being, a being in a body, but my mind has transcended the being of a body, and it experiences a wholeness right here, right now. They are moments that transcend that horizontal past-future reference. It's an opening in there, and only through practicing these ideas and actually applying the lessons do we have those moments. And those moments are to entice us along and move us to say, don't you want to have this more often? Don't you want to experience the truth of who you are on a more regular basis? Then you actually begin to have that ripple out. You're the pebble in the pond that drops in and it starts to go out to the rest of the sonship, which is already whole but doesn't know it's whole. So, and it has an influence on the rest of it.
That's the emphasis on healing.
Yes,
and
that's
instead
the emphasis
of
on
creativity,
healing.
in terms of here, healing
Yes.
is the issue, because healing can be the only task we have. Healing, because all of those things that you mentioned are an illusion. Doing things that you're talking about in the present, about dialing in and becoming present with what's happening now, and maybe I was wrong.
Yes.
Those are the healing moments which lead to the miracle mindedness, which are gaps. Miracle mindedness is a trans-dimensional, trans-temporal
Yes,
gap
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
in the so-called linear flow of time.
Yes.
And so when you touch those by saying, I was wrong, inviting this miraculous insight, you're prying apart temporal time to allow that miraculous
Yes.
entry.
Absolutely.
And then the idea is, I guess, what happens? I guess that's the nature of this time, which leads you to want to achieve what you're saying, is that a more continuous state.
Yes. And
It's not like but you don't live in a miracle, because
No.
the miracle, by definition, is the gap in temporal time.
Right. And healing has to do with forgiving that I thought that I was, that the world, my perceptual world, is real. I have to forgive myself for the perceptions that I think are happening, and also forgive others for the tragedies and the idea that the body comes and goes and gets hurt and is in pain, and wars and disease and all those things. I have to forgive those ideas and know and allow for the eternal self to remind me who and what I really am.
Live, imbibe, dwell in the fact that there is a reality of treasure, maximum value,
Yes.
perfection, completion. It doesn't rely on time. It doesn't rely on healing or anything. It's up there all the time.
Right. The healing allows
The healing
me to...
is a window into it.
It is a window
for
into
us.
it. Absolutely.
It allows it to come to us so that we know it exists.
Yes. Yes.
Because other than that, we're stuck with this temporal flow. Like you said, praying for peace all the time.
Yes. And then going to war.
Paragraph 5.
Paragraph 5. Now, which is in quotes, has no meaning to the ego. The present merely reminds it of past hurts, and it reacts to the present as if it were the past. The ego cannot tolerate release from the past, and although the past is over, the ego tries to preserve its image by responding as if it were present. It dictates your reactions to those you meet in the present from a past reference point, obscuring their present reality. In effect, if you follow the ego's dictates, you will react to your brother as though he were someone else, and this will surely prevent you from recognizing him as he is. And you will receive messages from him out of your own past, because by making it real in the present, you are forbidding yourself to let it go. You thus deny yourself the message of release that every brother offers you now.
The beauty of that is that, let's say I'm in temporal time, I'm living in the past, and I see a brother, and all I'm seeing is what I've already preconceived to see. I'm seeing my past. I'm seeing something that's already happened.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's a reminder. Sometimes you don't even know it's a subconscious thing. It's something about somebody's actions remind you of something. So there's an immediate prejudgment upon your brother that way.
Even there, in that delusional setting, I have the invitation there is to realize that because I get that message from the past, I'll know that that's an invitation of what you were saying earlier about being wrong and about bringing myself to it again with a reinterpretation by the Holy Spirit, so that even when I get those delusional images from my past, and it all comes at me as invitation.
Yeah, if we want to be aware that that is an invitation, because many times we look at it as an attack.
Right. No, exactly. That's what it's saying. I'm just saying that the system, as it's set up, is if I choose to think that I'm seeing all the people around me in temporal time, they're separate and they're coming at me, and I manage that relationship somehow, and manage that event, then yeah, I'm in time and I'm just an object moving through space with other objects. But if I recognize that I'm objectifying the things in my, it's the Martin Buber I-thou. If I recognize I have an I-it relationship, that's just an object over there that moves its mouth and says things to me. If I can recognize that that's what I'm doing, then I have the invitation to enter into true relationship with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And all of that is a continuous broadcasting from the mind of God to return to that place of not linear time, of an eternity.
Yeah, an eternity. It actually goes beyond now, and it goes into, like you said, an eternal.
Talking about time and these different levels and all this, I feel like it gets too spacey. And I'm going to say that this section, even though I've derailed into this stuff on time and all these other things, it seems so practical. It seems incredibly practical. And again, I said it about the last section. Does it ring true? Does it seem honest that I really do have that I-it relationship with the world around me? And do I really, do I feel like I'm trapped in time? And do I feel like I'm using the events around me to build myself up or to somehow prove myself?
Right.
And it's not operating from a place of understanding my ultimate value.
Well, you can always check in with yourself, because mostly if you say, am I at peace? Am I actually even vulnerable or allowing just whatever in front of this other person, as a brother, as a reflector of where I'm at in my life? Most of the time, no. I mean, I am absolutely in a linear space, judging. I've got future events on my mind that I want to get to, or I have other ideas about when. How often am I actually forcing myself to say, I want to see my brother as myself. I want to see them that way. No, it doesn't work that way. I'm in conversation and we're talking always from they are talking from a past-future reference. I'm talking from a past-future reference. And as this says, the ego cannot tolerate the release from the past. And although the past is over, the ego tries to preserve its image by responding as if it were present. It's doing that all the time.
Yeah, so you thus deny yourself the message of release that every brother offers you now. I'm going to say that nowness is that window into time flying by. That's a cursor that's very skinny, the present. And I take that moment and say, maybe I'm wrong. Give me another way to look at this. It pries time apart, and that's when the message of release from the brother often happens. Because that is the now. You're inviting now by prying that moment open.
Yes.
That's the only way I know to say it.
Yes, and that's when you have said, you call it the invitation of the Holy Spirit.
Paragraph 6. The shadowy figures from the past are precisely what you must escape. They are not real, and have no hold over you unless you bring them with you. They carry the spots of pain in your mind, directing you to attack in the present in retaliation for a past that is no more. And this decision is one of future pain. Unless you learn that past pain is an illusion, you are choosing a future of illusions and losing the many opportunities you could find for release in the present. The ego would preserve your nightmares and prevent you from awakening and understanding they are past. Would you recognize a holy encounter if you are merely perceiving it as a meeting with your own past? For you would be meeting no one, and the sharing of salvation, which makes the encounter holy, would be excluded from your sight. The Holy Spirit teaches that you always meet yourself, and the encounter is holy because you are. The ego teaches that you always encounter your past, and because your dreams were not holy, the future cannot be, and the present is without meaning. The logic, the insight of this, I swear, especially on sections like this and the last one, I really have to try to ground myself in the fact that this is a useful document, a useful message that is actually trying to reach me, and to not get blown away by the phenomenon. This thing is so profound.
I agree.
What in it? I mean, you have this where's the Paul the Apostle for the Course in Miracles? I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh, someone who takes
It's not Kenneth Wapnick.
No, it's not. No. I have no idea.
The truths in
Maybe
this.
it's you.
Maybe so, and maybe I'll have to be dead and gone. This is so profoundly insightful and useful and practical and current.
Well, go into that, because we're talking about carrying our past pains into the future. And it's because we won't recognize that pain has gone. We are carrying it with us. In other words, it's as if it's still here with me all the time. Now, you can't change someone's memory, and you can't deny, when it comes to healing another person and things like that, their pains that have existed in their past that seem to be haunting them in their present. But this is telling us that if we have the inclination to drop our past hurts and try to see the future unfold from a present moment as opposed to a past reference.
But that dropping, that's an interesting word.
I know, drop it.
That's an interesting word, because what comes to mind is, since we're in the Christmas season, he is a refiner's fire. He is that dropping is a refining. It's the proverbial gold that needs to be burned.
Absolutely.
And that past is incinerated.
Yes.
The idea about who you think you are is incinerated.
Yeah.
In the truth of what you really are. And you laugh.
Yes.
That you thought that you were supposed to make something of yourself.
Yes, absolutely. That is true. It does become a comedy of errors when you awaken. It's comical that you thought the way you thought. It becomes comical because it's like, how could that be? You suddenly have new eyes, new ways of perceiving. In
the moment, in a twinkling of an eye. In the Christian context, you see Jesus, coming on in his Charger. He's got, as you always say, could have been a Mustang, but instead it's a white Charger.
Yes.
And he comes blazing in clouds of glory, and he's going to reap judgment on us, or whatever he's going to do, sort out the... man, that's now. That is the now. If you experience the now, you experience the refiner's fire. You experience the second coming. You experience this blazing presence that comes down from on high, exposing your quote-unquote sins, which is your crazy way of looking at things.
Yes.
If that exposure happens.
And depending on where a person is in attachments to their ego, they will experience what you're calling a refiner's fire that burns off the dross of my ideas of myself. a person who's very tied to their accomplishments and what they are in a body will experience probably a fear very, very, very strong. But people who have done some work in their spiritual life may or may not happen. It's really an individual's journey in that respect. When I had my one-time experience, it was not frightening to me. It was just, wow, really? How can this be? How can I think that I'm a body and I'm all this as well? So it was just an awareness. And
as we said the last time, though, the reassurance is, if one requires reassurance, there is the metaphysical understanding that anything that you and I are experiencing right now in a very conventional time sense, without any of that, far out revelation of what I am or what
Yes.
God's mind or something like that. It's built on the reality of the mind of God. No, this stuff.
Well, that's true.
The integrity of the physical time-space experience. The integrity, the beautiful homogeneity, the constancy, the predictability, the stability of the time-space. Those are all qualities of God.
Yes.
That this is built out of.
Yes.
So you can rest if you insist on staying underwater, and suffering through not having any oxygen. You can know that in a time of crisis and need, you can stick your head above the water and take a breath.
That's true. Yes.
The breath, the air is there. It doesn't go away because you're underwater.
That's true. Absolutely. And again, awareness is absolutely necessary to continue to have an awareness of the Holy Spirit's in your life, its actions in your life. Okay, paragraph 7. It is evident that the Holy Spirit's perception of time is the exact opposites of the ego's. The reason is equally clear, for they perceive the goal of time as diametrically opposed. The Holy Spirit interprets time's purpose as rendering the need for time unnecessary. He regards the function of time as temporary, serving only his teaching function, which is temporary by definition. His emphasis is therefore on the only aspect of time that can extend to the infinite. For now is the closest approximation of eternity that this world offers. It is in the reality of now, without past or future, that the beginning of the appreciation of eternity lies. For only now is here, and only now presents the opportunities for the holy encounters in which salvation can be found.
Well, if I take now as that cursor I was talking about that separates the past from the future, it's saying that the Holy Spirit's interpretation of that cursor moment is to realize timelessness.
Yes.
And the ego's purpose for that cursor is to judge your reality of whether it's worth it or not. In other words, you sit in judgment of yourself, who you are, who others are. It's a constant playing God. If you do that, that's what the now is for in the ego's mind, is to play God with physical reality.
I don't think ego can go to now.
Well, it's in the space between present and future.
Right.
The ego uses, like in an egoic sense, I use this moment to evaluate whether or not I'm comfortable enough, whether I've achieved enough, whether you're pretty enough, or whether I'm smart enough, or whether,
Yes.
whether I'm smart enough, or whether I need to go to the doctor. It's always an evaluation. And the Holy Spirit's use of now is not in any of those evaluations. None of those evaluations.
Agreed.
The Holy Spirit's use for now is to touch that timelessness. And that would be the miracle of the now. You can take any of those things I riffed off on about whether I'm handsome enough or whether you're smart enough or whatever, and go into that and say that's a judgment. It indicates a lack.
Yes.
So since it indicates a lack, I'm coming from a deficit place. I need another way of looking at this, and that's where you then, in that moment, out of that judgment, invite this other way of looking at it that leads to now.
Yes.
A true now.
Yes.
Paragraph 8. The ego, on the other hand, regards the function of time as one of extending itself in place of eternity. For like the Holy Spirit, the ego interprets the goal of time as its own. The continuity of past and future under its direction is the only purpose the ego perceives in time, and it closes over the present so that no gap in its own continuity can occur. Its continuity, then, would keep you in time, while the Holy Spirit would release you from it. It is His interpretation of the means of salvation that you must learn to accept if you would share His goal of salvation for you.
Well, that answered the difference between the ego's interpretation, that it wants no gap in its continuity of the present and future. And
you have to stay on the treadmill,
yes,
because if that treadmill ever stops, you die.
Yeah. And then so that in that continuity, it says, then would keep you in time while the Holy Spirit would release you from it. It is His interpretation of the means of salvation that you must learn to accept. Yes, and the means of salvation are forgiveness. So you must learn to accept if you share His goal of salvation for you. Okay, paragraph 9. You too will interpret the function of time as you interpret yours. If you accept your function in the world of time as one of healing, you will emphasize only the aspect of time in which healing can occur. Healing cannot be accomplished in the past. It must be accomplished in the present to release the future. This interpretation ties the future to the present and extends the present rather than the past. But if you interpret your function as destruction, you will lose sight of the present and hold on to the past to ensure a destructive future. And time will be as you interpret it, for of itself it is nothing.
You know, all of that, I was staying with it, and I just want to emphasize once again to not glaze when you read things like, if you interpret your function as destruction. I don't know anybody that says, hey, I'm here to destroy. You will lose sight of the present and hold on to the past. So these kinds of indictments, I think, have to be understood to understand the integrity of the Course in Miracles.
Yes, I agree.
So how do you understand your sense of being, your path being destruction in terms of what the Course is saying?
I know, if you interpret your function as destruction, and they have used destruction and attack in the same kind of usage throughout other passages here. So my function, if I think that I must defend myself, which all judgments usually require me to defend my positions, to defend who I am and everything else, that means as soon as I defend myself, I am also attacking. They're simultaneous, because I cannot defend myself and not attack at the same time, according to the way, whether or not I realize it or not, those are the functions that are happening.
Yeah, if you use an umbrella, are you being attacked by the rain?
No, I'm defending myself against the rain.
Yeah, but you think that you're being attacked by a wetness that you do not want. So
yes.
You are under attack from the sky.
Yes, and that's a very, very good analogy. So that is the kind of destruction that it's talking about. Those things do not engender healing or the leap to creation, which would be moving to heaven. Instead, I stay in that past-future reference of attacking and defending and attacking and defending. And attacking and defending only can create a destructive world, something that is going to continue to have a sense of taking someone else down, or some country down, or some people down, or some bug in my garden down, in order that I can maintain my body ego sense.
It's a 24/7 task of circling the wagons and defending against attack.
Yes.
Continuous, whether it's buying insurance, using an umbrella. Now, I'm not saying that you don't do those things.
Right.
But there's a way of doing them mindfully, in a desire for the now, and in communication with spirit.
Yes.
You can do those things that, they become something else.
Yes. that's a reminder that healing cannot occur under those conditions. And I think the last sentence here was, and time will be as you interpret it, for of itself it is nothing. Time is a use within perceptual reality. In fact, it was created at the time of separation. The idea that I could separate from an allness, something that is all pervasive. So time became the structure on which all things were built off of. But of itself, it is nothing. It is not in, quote, reality, meaning the ultimate reality, which is an eternal state.
You might have already said something about this, and I wasn't paying attention. Line 1, you will interpret the function of time as you interpret your own function.
Yes.
So I will know what the function of time is by understanding what my function is.
Yeah, and as I take on the function as healing, which means I will forgive the thoughts and I will let go of my judgments upon myself and the world. To me, I call it suspension, because to say I'm not going to judge that thing means that I'm fighting against something. But if I say I will suspend my thoughts on that, I allow for a moment, and the Holy Spirit, they talk about those holy instances. It requires of that moment of suspension where I say, I will not judge this. I will not label it. I will not categorize that or myself.
How does that go towards time then? How does that influence your definition of time?
In that moment, I allow for a moment of nowness to creep in, which allows for the future to be built off of my present versus off of a past reference. What I want to have happen is I want my future to be built off of those instances that I suspend my judgment on a brother, on the world, on myself, on things that I think need to happen around me. I suspend it for moments. Those moments allow for, okay, are you asking? Yes, I'm asking. Let me have the Holy Spirit's answer to this. In that moment, the present begins to be the building block for my future. It changes the way the world is structured, because now I'm not built off of a past reference. Do you understand what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think this whole section is about.
So time, if I hear you correctly, time then becomes an infinite shower of grace.
Yes.
As a moment to moment to moment to moment opportunity.
Yes.
To experience heaven in the form of the invitation, touching spirit, the miraculous. An infinite time.
Yes.
If I'm in a healing modality, in terms of the Course in Miracles, time is a shower of grace.
Yes. Now let's leave it like that. I love that. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.